It's 8:30. It's Friday night. You're watching Dave the drummer. You're watching the Talking Drum TV. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. So we've got an interview with one of the premier hand percussionists in the world who just happens to have a studio and happens to call Santa Cruz home. His name is Jim Greiner. He's got this awesome outlook on life that totally dictates the flow of how he approaches music, theory, concept. It's a great interview. It's probably one of my favorites that we've done. Let's get over to that interview with Jim Greiner. Jim, take it away. We are super stoked to have Jim on. So without further ado, I'm going to let Jim talk about Jim. Jim.
Hey, thank you, Dave. I am a percussionist, and I'm here to serve the groove. I'm here to serve the groove in two ways: to be in service to the groove and to serve up the groove, to create a rhythmic foundation that's so dependable and solid that people can let go and ride the wave. I've been fortunate to travel around the world over the last 4 decades, playing with people, living with people, drumming with people, getting to know people in all kinds of different cultures. And so that's influenced my playing a huge amount, and also just the way I live life. I've been a follower of cultures since the time I was about 10 years old, growing up in San Francisco, and taking the bus around different parts of the city and getting to know people from different parts of the city, including some of the older Latino guys playing congas on the street corners in the Mission District.
Right.
Is where I first got turned on to hand drums and hand percussion, and the way that people play parts that fit together to create the groove.
Right. That is the kind of stories that we want to talk about and pull apart at length for the Talking Drum, because Jim has so much experience and he is a Santa Cruz guy. And this show, I was just explaining to the folks here at East Cliff Brewery, is that this show is ultimately about local people to Santa Cruz. I mean, if you're watching from outside Santa Cruz, that's awesome, but you're getting a look at Santa Cruz as it is right now through this show, because myself and Jim, we're both citizens of this town. We're both citizens of this area. We're both people, we're patrons of the arts, in the sense that we are both involved with making and creating things. And it doesn't have to necessarily even be music. It's just we are a part of something that is integral to Santa Cruz identity, I think, is that we put into the creative melding pot that which we got out of it, you know, because I was just telling Jim before the show, this place has a very inspiring spirit, and it's definitely inspired the hell out of me. And Jim, I think, would totally agree with me on that.
Absolutely. This is the place for me to live. I traveled 2 years in Africa, a year in Europe, 3 or 4 years touring around the country, the U.S. I always knew I'd end up back in California. As I said, I was raised in San Francisco. So I was coming up from a gig in L.A. and saw the sign for Santa Cruz, which I've always loved. Used to come down here in high school.
Right.
And always loved Santa Cruz. It was lunchtime. I was hungry, so I pulled off the road into downtown Santa Cruz. Pulled out the Front Street, the original old Catalyst on Front Street, walked in and literally said to myself, I am home.
There you go.
This is it. So I got my stuff out of storage in San Francisco, came down to Santa Cruz, set up shop as a percussionist.
Right.
And been here ever since.
Can you give me a year on when you made that jump?
Mid-'70s.
Mid-'70s. Good enough for me, because that gives a pretty solid picture of not only how long Jim's been here, but I mean the time frame that he was here in Santa Cruz. I mean, very special time. You know, we can only read about it now for folks that, you know, totally missed out on that. But at least there's folks like Jim that have a great oral story to tell about the time that he was here and the things that he'd seen. And this is ultimately why I had to have Jim come on the show.
Well, when I got back from Africa, I missed the community drumming feeling that we had there.
Right.
And we'd play sometimes all night and into the next day.
Right.
And that's a life-changing experience to play for about 15 hours solid.
Right.
So that's getting into a groove, I tell you.
Right.
So I was teaching workshops out in San Francisco just to create more drummers so I'd have more people to play with.
Right.
One time after one of my sessions, this fellow came up to me and said, I really like what you do, and you integrate communication skills and collaboration skills into your workshops. We should do this in our office. We're so stressed out, we don't work effectively together.
Right.
So not stopping to second guess myself, I said, well, let's do it.
Right.
Then I wondered what I got myself into, and this was in the very early 80s. But I did give myself 3 months to do research on the corporate culture the same way I researched African culture before
Right.
I went. And because I had, actively avoided the corporate world pretty much my whole life.
Right.
So I created a program that I thought would serve them after all my research.
Right.
Did it, brought a bunch of drums and percussion instruments, got them working together for communication and collaboration skills, and to instill a spirit of celebration in the
Right.
workplace.
Right.
They loved it. The boss loved it. I loved it. I couldn't believe how much they got into it.
Right.
And then I got the paycheck. The light bulb went up. I thought, well, this is a good way to bring drumming to a culture, a world, to people. I never imagined I can do it.
Right.
So you mentioned Silicon Valley. If it
Yes.
wasn't for San Francisco and Silicon Valley, I don't know that I ever would have come up with this idea, or that it would have taken hold. After a few years of doing that, then I started branching out, and so now I'm all over the world doing it.
Right.
And the corporate team building using drumming is a natural.
Right.
It's purely a natural.
Right.
And I still get to play. I still get to play in bands and tour and teach. I have a drum school, hand drum and hand percussion school locally, and I play locally in a couple different bands and get to play with some good bands that tour every once in a while. And I get to do what I love, basically.
You can't really argue with being able to find a way to be able to get paid for the things that you love to do. I mean, there is no better nirvana than being able to find solace and some coin with the things that you would just normally do, as
That's
normal
right.
as you would
That's right.
breathe air, and you would be able to walk around and just enjoy everything in life.
That's a good point. We got to have something in life that gets us out of the bed in the morning and puts a smile on our face.
Absolutely.
Today, I get to fill in the blank. I
Right.
got to do this and I got to do that. Get in my office every morning at 9 o'clock, do my marketing, do all
Right.
that good stuff. But also, I get to play. Every single day, I get to play.
Right.
And so I've turned that into a program, too. I call it a rhythm power, rhythm practice. So it's using rhythm as a practice, capital P, to create positive life skills.
Right.
Like grounding ourselves, releasing stress, focusing ourselves on our intentions,
Right.
and having fun, playing. As children, we learn by playing.
Right.
Then we grow old and older and get responsible and all that good stuff, and we forget how important playing is.
Yes.
We think, oh, well, I should go play today, but I don't have time.
Right.
It's more than I should. It's a must. A must. We humans are hardwired to have to play, to
Right.
get together and create this energy together, this synergy together. From the time we danced around the fire and hit stuff and shook stuff and told stories and chanted together,
Right.
to the modern day, we have to play. We are hardwired to have to play, have to celebrate, and have to get the endorphins going. It's like the barn raising effect.
Right.
We all get together and work together. It feels good. That's part of being a human being. It's part of what has allowed us to survive in all these different environments around the planet.
I agree. The feeling of being able to, I don't know, just sort of take your mind to a different place just through creation. Just music in general. Maybe you're humming somebody else's song. Doesn't matter. But it's a comfort. It's a human response thing that our body is hardwired to do. So I mean, I feel exactly what you're saying, though. Let's talk a little bit about those local bands that you work with, though. A TV
Yes.
show is one of them, right?
TV show. TJ Politzer and Vinnie Johnson, the TV. And then the rhythm section is Fuzzy John Oxendine, Leroy Rick Hornbeck. Fuzzy John plays drum set. Leroy Rick plays bass guitar, and I play conga and percussion. And just 4-part harmonies, and veterans of the music business. I mean, we played for everybody from Quicksilver Messenger Service
Right.
to Santa Champlin to Moby Grape, Jerry Miller.
Right.
So we got a lot of experience, and we love playing together.
How long have you guys been together?
About I've been with them about 4 years. They got together initially, and then the way I'm just been described to me is they all looked at each other one day and said, well, we need somebody else. And literally at the same time, 2 or 3 people said, Jim Greiner. So I'm glad, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I get locally also, I get to play with Dale Ackerman a lot.
Okay.
The music's cool, his music school. And I played with Dale in the White Album Ensemble,
Right.
and which is the Beatles tribute, more than
Yes.
tribute. And then also the Beggar Kings, which is
Okay,
Rolling
yeah.
Stones.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of them, both projects,
So
actually.
I'm fortunate to be able to play locally with such high caliber people.
Right.
And then I've done tours with Quicksilver Messenger Service, played with Sister Monica Parker for 15 years before, unfortunately, a dear sister passed.
Right.
Also, Jerry Miller, I get to play with Jerry. He's still number 68 on Rolling Stone's 100 Best Rock Guitarists of All Time. And also for 20 years, I played in 10-piece show band that did corporate events all around the world.
Right on.
So we had 10 musicians, 6 dancers, and 3-person road crew, and we had a ball. We had a great time.
Let's talk a little bit about the school, the Jim Greiner's school of
Yes,
percussion. I want
hands-on
to talk
drumming
about this.
school. Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. If you insist.
I do.
www.handsondrum.com. Also www.santacruzdrumlessons.com.
There you go.
And I teach 2 classes a week, Tuesday and Wednesday nights. And Tuesday nights, djembe drumming and West African hand drumming. Wednesday nights, Congo drumming, Afro-Caribbean hand drumming. And both, again, incorporate my drumming as a life practice
Right.
program. And then also teach private lessons and all kinds of hand drums, hand percussion in SoCal Village. I have a studio in SoCal Village.
I've been wondering where your
Just
studio was
locally.
at.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah, yeah. And then I get to, and that's locally what I do as far as teaching.
Right.
I'm also fortunate to be endorsed by some music industry leaders, including LP. You got the LP Jim Greiner Shaker right there. Uh-huh. And so I get to do clinics for LP in music stores all over the country and every once in a while overseas. And then I'm supported by some of the other companies too. I think we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
But
that's
I'm
absolutely
fortunate also with LP, I get to present at music industry trade shows, being in their booth and demonstrate instruments and talk about hand drums and hand percussion to music retailers and distributors who come around for the music industry trade shows. And it falls under that category as it's a tough gig, but somebody does have to do it.
Speaking of which, that is actually the clip that we are going to cut to, and it is a clip of Jim in action with one of these bad boys at NAMM. And I mean, Jim, this is something that's not new to Jim. So Jim shines in the public. I've seen it. And so we're going to let you take a look at that video, and we're going to come right back, talk a little bit more with Jim. Okay, Jim, thank you for that video clip, man.
You're welcome. That was, as you said, the NAMM show, NAMM, National Association of Music Merchants annual trade show. And that was a Japanese TV crew who came by and wanted to film me doing one of my demonstrations at the booth. So, of course, I chose the LP Jim Greiner Shaker.
Now, our producers, one of the sponsors of the show, JVQAV, they attend NAMM shows. And so, I mean, if you're ever at NAMM, you go see our man Jared, go say hi, go shake his hand. He's probably got some swag for you. You might see Jim there. You might see Jim You might see Jim in another country. You might not even see him at the NAM in LA. Maybe you see him at the NAM in Nashville because there's two, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, Jim, let's talk about what you've got cooking like right now. Are you recording anything? Are you going to be touring anytime soon or?
A lot of my corporate stuff. I just came back from, well, actually a week in Guatemala, which was not corporate. It was teaching and performing at a festival.
Yes, let's go and talk about that because Guatemala, I mean, they make some of my favorite beers. So, I mean, I got to hear about this. You know?
It was cool. It was a 4-day festival.
Right.
They brought me in to do community drumming.
Right.
And then also my rhythm power life practice rhythm sessions.
Right.
And and to teach and to perform. I got to play with some really good local musicians.
Right.
Every single night they came in, and they were generous enough to invite me to come and sit in with them.
Very
And it was
cool.
up in an eco resort called Earth Lodge. Check out Earth Lodge. Beautiful, wonderful place and beautiful, wonderful people there.
There's a link at the bottom. We're going to link it.
There you go. And then my family was there. My wife, Evelyn, who's a ceremonialist and a counselor and hypnotherapist, did a session there as well. And our daughter, Gabrielle, and her great guy, Joshua, came, and they helped out. So it was, you know, it's another tough gig, paid vacation, 7 days in Guatemala kind of thing. This is why we spend all this time practicing woodshedding, getting our chops up and all that good stuff. That and the fact that it's just a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they put us up in this really nice villa for 3 days in Antigua.
Right.
And the resort was in the hills above Antigua. And so then we just did the visiting and going to the crafts markets and stuff and having some great food, meeting wonderful people.
Right.
So that was the most recent thing. Coming up, I got some corporate stuff in Miami, Chicago, hopefully New Orleans. I want to go to New Orleans again. And then tons of stuff in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley keeps me very, very busy with my corporate team building and conference ice breaking.
So there was a famous baseball player that said, baseball has been very, very good to me. So I would think for Jim that the Silicon Valley has been very, very good to him.
It has, with the percussion as the vehicle.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Let's take it on a side tangent, like we always do. What do you do for fun when you're like kind of getting, you want to get away from music, or maybe not necessarily you want to get away from music. Maybe you're just, I want to do something, just have a little fun. You know, I'm getting away from the office or the set or the shaker.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? Just
Well, when drumming just gets too stressful. I like to work in the garden.
There you go.
I grow vegetables and herbs. I'm a fanatic for growing herbs and drying them and using them and all that good stuff.
They can make or break a meal.
Oh, big time.
Oh, yes.
Big time. And we have a wonderful place in SoCal with the hot tub and the sauna and the yurt and cottages and all kinds of fun stuff. The family compound, I call it.
Right. Right. Have you caught Eddie Murphy pretending to be James Brown trying to get into your hot tub?
No.
Oh,
hot
okay.
tub.
Yeah. Too hot for the hot tub. Yeah. See, he got it. Yeah.
And then walks in nature. And,
No, nature walks are good.
Hanging out with family, and hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
Even most of my friends tend to be musicians. We get together and play a lot and jam a lot, and then it's fun to hang out and not play.
Right.
Just talk together, jam together. On a conversation.
Exactly.
And I like to do the same thing. I like to get down deep into conversations like that. I get down deep into grooves.
Right.
And again, I'm still hooked on anthropology and mythology and history. I'll watch documentaries till the sun comes up.
Yeah.
and read and do research and look forward to going different places. And if I find a place I haven't been to, I want to go to, I'll try to get a gig.
Right. So then you would say traveling is one of your things, then, right?
Traveling, that's right. That's a good point. I knew when I was 10 that my life would be traveling around the world. I had
Right.
no idea what that meant,
Yeah.
but I was just so fascinated by cultures and history and learning about traditions that I knew I'd want to get out and about.
Right.
So again, music and percussion has been my vehicle to get out and travel. And like I said, when I find a place I want to go, I'll try to get a gig, and meet people and play with people, and then just hang out and get to know people, get to know the culture. Get out of Dodge, I call it. That's what I was when I was 18 years old. I got out of Dodge. No problems at home. Five boys with my parents in a really tiny house. So it was time for me to get out of Dodge, and so that's when I made my way to Africa, and haven't stopped since then.
Because I love you, and I need you, and I got to have you, child. Great God in heaven, I love you. Because that's a song. We talk about vehicle, so I had to send a
There you
shout-out.
are. There you are, man.
So we are at the conclusion of our interview. Jim, thank you so much for coming. But
Welcome, brother.
fortunately, this is the time where Jim is going to give you tons of links to be able to check out his music, his activities, and some of the folks that support and basically corral all their love around Jim. So, Jim, please hit us with those links.
I sure will. I'll give you the names, and we can
Sure, go
write
for it.
down the links later.
Absolutely,
They'll be
yeah.
right there.
That's what we do, right at the bottom. Well, go ahead.
So again, LP Latin Percussion, a longtime endorser since '93, and they're just so generous with me and such wonderful people. And also,
Before you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a jerk and cut you
Yeah.
off before the LP, but I do want to say this. My producer for the show and also really awesome guy, Jaron, the guy from JBQAV, he supplies me with my. A lot of people, I've said this only a couple of times, but I primarily use timbale sticks when I play drums, just because I like that sort of like. I don't know how I would describe the sound, but it's got what I want, and I use slightly thicker ones. I use Alex Acuna Conquistadora, and so LP I want to give a shout out to, and if you ever need somebody that wants to market those as a drumstick and not just for timbales, you can give me a call too.
there you are, man.
But please go on.
Okay, so LP, and then that's for performance and for my teaching and clinics.
Yes.
And then Toka Percussion for my community and corporate drumming work, because they
Yes.
make really great small lightweight drums, because I have to ship hundreds of drums and hand percussion instruments all over creation.
Right.
And then ProMark drumsticks, Sabian cymbals, and Audix microphones.
Okay.
So I've been fortunate to, and I give props and respect all the time to those people who've been very good for me. And I get their products out into the world. So it's a mutual thing we got going on, of course. It's got to work for everybody.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'm just remembering now that we hit a good chunk of the hardware question, and it's okay because I can edit this back in when it's going to become relevant. But we mentioned about the congas part. Could you talk about the conga that you primarily use?
I sure will. But one more thing about
Sure.
hardware.
Go for it.
Also endorsed by Gibraltar Drum Hardware.
I love Gibraltar.
Oh man, that's the stuff.
My cymbal stand, or sorry, my snare stand. I've had one too many tonight. But no, my snare stand is a Gibraltar. I trust their hardware, so I did not know you were a Gibraltar sponsored artist. That is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I'm blessed. In
How
a lot
long
of
have you been
ways.
with them?
I've been with them since about '99. Yeah.
There you go.
And it's one of those things where I've been able to leverage certain things to create other things, and that's part of life's journey as well as working it.
Right.
I enjoy working it. I enjoy working with people and leveraging things and making things happen with other people and giving value for the people who support me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I discovered a long time ago that I love doing business,
Yeah.
the drum business.
But can we go back to the
Conga.
Yes.
I play LP Galaxy Giovanna Hidalgo wood congas are made out of North American ash, and then also the same model djembe, tunable djembe, same model bongos, and I play the LP Tito Puente timbales.
Tito!
Tito,
Grew up with that guy.
the rey, the king.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
then also I play the LP Jim Greiner Shakeré as much as I can. And then also I play Middle Eastern Dumbek and Darabuka and the Toka model of that. I spent
Second
a lot of
episode in
time-
the row for the reference for the Doombak in the
Dumbek and the Darabuka.
That's
I
right.
spent a lot of time in North Africa, and so I got a chance to play a lot of Darabuka. And then frame drums and hand drums and percussion. I've got a lot of videos on LP's website of tambourine, fouché, claves, all kinds of hand drums and hand percussion instruments.
Awesome. Okay, could you give one more time a link for your schools?
Yes, locally it's www.santacruzdrumlessons.com, and then for everything else it's www.handsondrum.com.
And if folks wanted to, they could more than likely go on YouTube after they see this, and they can go check out some of your work in action, right?
I've got scores of videos. Some of them have over 150,000 hits
There you go.
at this point. And then also Facebook, a couple different Facebook pages, LinkedIn, and, same thing. Got to work it.
Very cool. Is there anything else you'd like to plug while you have the open forum?
I think that's it, other than play. Find something you love to do and do it. Get down deep into it. And it's a life practice. So I call it the 4 Ps of creating a life practice, which is purpose, plan, persevere, and play. Create a purpose, create a plan to get you to that purpose, that intention, reinforce intentions. Keep with it. That's the persevere and play. Have fun.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on and doing that interview with us, Jim. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel just to see all the individual episodes of the Talking Drum. They're actually cut a little bit different, so it's not exactly like seeing the TV show, which is 30 minutes. All these interviews are cut one at a time. And also on top of that, the musical clips will sometimes be a bit different, or will be longer or shorter. So either way, it's a little bit different. So also be sure to check me out on all my social media just to see what I'm up to. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Also be sure to check me out on SoundCloud for what I've got going on musically. Also Bandcamp as well. I'm going to be having a brand new single out soon, so be able to keep your eyes out open, or I guess keep your ears open for that one. I'm really looking forward to this song. Is actually I'm doing all the instruments on my own as first. I'm really stoked to bring it to you guys. So until next time, this is Dave the Drummer saying, Blue Justice!